Hello, this is Woolly Faye, and in this tutorial we are going to practice the woven stitch. If at any point you need to catch up, please pause your video and then hit play to resume when you are ready. To begin, chain 31. You will then single crochet into the back loop of every chain stitch, beginning with the second loop from your hook. You should have a foundation row of 30 stitches. Now we will proceed to the woven stitch. You're going to chain 1, and that is going to count as your first stitch. You will then insert your hook beneath both loops of the second stitch from your hook, draw up a loop, and complete a single crochet stitch. With your chain stitch and your single crochet, you now have 2 stitches completed. Now, to do the woven stitch, you are going to skip the next stitch. You will insert your hook into the following stitch. You want to wrap the yarn one time around the hook and then insert, draw up a loop, and you should have 3 loops on your hook. Slip stitch the first loop through the second. Now yarn over and pull through both loops. Now wrap around your hook one time, insert the hook into the very same stitch. Draw up a loop, and you're going to slip stitch the first loop through the last 2 loops. You have completed your woven stitch. Let's do that again. We're going to skip the next stitch and work into the one after. You want to wrap the yarn around your hook, insert the hook into the stitch under both loops, draw up a loop, and pull the first loop through the second. Now you will yarn over and pull through both loops. Once again, we'll return to the same stitch. Wrap one time, insert the hook into the same stitch, draw up a loop, and you're going to slip stitch the first loop through the final 2. That completes that woven stitch. To do the next, we skip the next stitch and go to the one after. We wrap the yarn around the hook. We insert it into the stitch under both loops. We draw up a loop. We pull the first loop through the second. There are 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through both loops. Now we return to the second stitch, the same stitch. You're going to wrap the yarn around your hook one time and insert it back into the same stitch. You're going to pull up a loop, and you're going to slip stitch the first loop through the last 2. That completes the woven stitch. So let us continue all the way down. We continue to skip a stitch and do a woven stitch. Each woven stitch, you must wrap one time and go into the stitch twice, as shown in the previous stitches. So we skip another stitch, pull up a loop, and continue as we have. Back into the stitch a second time, both loops. If you need to pause your video and catch up, please do so, and then hit play when you're ready. When we get to the end, I will show you how to close it off. Remember that the final 2 stitches on your row will be single crochets. So your last woven stitch should fall 2 stitches before the end of the row. And now we came to the end, and there should be 2 stitches left on the hook. If there are not, we will need to compensate with an increase or a decrease. As you see, there are 2 stitches remaining, so we just insert under both hooks and complete a single crochet for those last 2 stitches. Now we turn our work around and we chain 1. To close the stitch, we will single crochet twice into each skip stitch. First, we chain 1, that counts as a stitch, and we add our second single crochet stitch to the end, and then we skip the woven stitch. Now if you want to continue to build the woven stitch over rows, you will build the woven stitch into the skip spaces, and you will be skipping the woven stitch. But to close this stitch as you would in this pattern, you will actually single crochet twice into the skip stitch, skipping the woven stitches from the previous row. This will also allow you a chance to count your stitches to be sure that you haven't gotten your count off. So there'll be 1, 2, and then there'll be 2 here. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, and we know that we need 30. 10, 12. 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 'You can always go back and redo a stitch if you feel like. And now the last 2 be 29 and 30. There will be 2 single crochet stitches on each end before the woven stitch and as you close it off. So there's 29 and there's 30. I know that my count is correct. And so while I am building my repeat rows through here, when I get to my woven stitch, it is a good chance to just double check my count. So that is how you do the woven stitch. Feel free to repeat this tutorial as many times as you want until you get it mastered.